Robert Melvin was born in 1716 in Concord, Massachusetts. He was a lieutenant in his father's company, the 4th Massachusetts Militia, during the French and Indian War. His father, David Melvin, was born in Charlestown, Massachusetts in 1690 and moved to Concord in 1697. He was a successful land speculator, possibly from the land awarded from his military service. Land speculation was a popular activity in the early colonies. In 1744, David Melvin was commissioned as a captain in the 5th Company of the 4th Massachusetts Regiment. In 1745, he went to the French fortress of Louisbourg with his company under Colonel William Pepperell of Maine. The colonial force was successful, but Captain David Melvin was wounded and died of his wounds after returning home. Robert was with his father at Louisbourg. On August 4, 1761, a sloop from Boston arrived in Chester, Nova Scotia. On it were the Reverend John Seckham and 30 families from the Boston area. Among them were Robert Melvin of Concord and his 4 children, Sarah, Eliezer, a child, and James. On August 14th, Seckham, Melvin, and others went to view the Eastern Bay, etc. And Seckham noted Mr. Melvin and Mr. Houghton, Captain Timothy Houghton, caught a salmon in Middle River with their hands. On August 24th, a town meeting was held in Chester, and Captain Timothy Houghton was elected moderator. They drew lots for land, and clearing of land and construction of homes began. Melvin was a widower, and he returned to Concord, Massachusetts in 1762, married his second wife, Phoebe. They came back to Chester and had 8 children. Among the Crown grants registered in the Adjutant General's office in Halifax, NS, dated October 31, 1765, in which is given to Reverend John Seckham, Jonathan Prescott, Timothy Houghton, Simon Floyd, James Weber, Abraham Bradshaw, George Collicutt, Robert Melville, Melvin, and others under the seal of Governor Wilmot, a tract of 29,750 acres of land in Chester, Twelp, NS. Each share consists of 500 acres, on condition of paying a free yearly quitrent of 1 shilling sterling every Michaelmas Day for every expiration of 10 years, beginning with the date of the grant, for every 50 acres granted, and so on, in proportions of 50 acres, forever. The grantees promised to plant 2 acres with hemp for the making of naval rope, and a like quantity to be improved. 1 family at least, with proper stock and material for said improvement, to be settled on every 500 acres, on or before the last day of November 1767. Crown Lands Grants. Volume 6, p. 548. The person described by author James DeMille as discovering the money pit was Robert Melvin. The late great Oak Island researchers Paul Ronklowski and Chris Dona believed the Treasure of the Sea by DeMille in 1872 was an important source to figure out the early history of the island. DeMille tells of a father who discovered the pit, having been told of the pit by the French 40 years before the 3 Boys version, and would engage with his son to work it. This implied that the discovery was really a rediscovery. Well, after this nothing was done for a long time. These 2, father and son, went home, and for a while they kept the whole business a secret. But after some years the old man died, and the son married, and so the whole story leaked out, till everybody knew all about it. DeMille's knowledge was gained from living on Oak Island during 1868, shortly after the mysterious inscribed stone was removed from John Smith's fireplace. It also came from many years of living in Chester. DeMille does not provide a date, but he says a father and son were the primary discoverers, and implies that the Loyalists rediscovered the pit, or discovered a pit hidden by the planters. DeMille further states these diggings to be about 40 years before the 3 Boys version. DeMille states that after the father dies, the son gets married, then the story leaks out. In review, the father and son can only be Robert Melvin and Nathaniel Melvin, who was born in 1765. After his death in 1787, the Loyalists would start arriving in the area. His son, Nathaniel, took control of his father's Oak Island lots and further acquired several others, including Lot 17 during 1790, which he purchased from Anthony Vaughan Sr. With this purchase, the Melvin family would own the lots on either side of Lot 18, which contained the money pit. Corresponding with DeMille's version, Nathaniel Melvin married in 1795. The first connection with Melvin and Oak Island can be established in 1755-56, when elements of the 4th Massachusetts Militia were sent to Nova Scotia to protect the town of Lunenburg from Indian raids. As part of the militia, Melvin first met the Peasant family while conducting rounds of the inhabited islands. They were also the troops that responded to the island after the Malicite killed Louis Peasant and kidnapped his family. Philip Peasant returned to Chester from his captivity, and his name appears in the 1764 grant declaring Shoreham as Chester. Chester Township papers show the first mention of Oak Island in October 1764. Oak Island and others not yet wholly drawn must be referred to a plan of the same taken by Mr. Josiah Marshall and accepted at the same time as above. The island was surveyed and divided to ensure that all grantees were able to draw from a hat a slip of paper that gave them ownership of an island share. Initially, they were all granted a town lot, a wood lot, and an island lot. The first person recorded to draw for an island lot was Edward Smith. He was Chester's first town clerk, but no relation to John Smith, who would later own Lot 18, the money pit. In August 1766, Edward drew for lot number 19, and he also drew for lot number 2. Deeds show Melvin trading his town lot to Edward Smith for his Oak Island lot within 30 days of Timothy Houghton's death. Later that same day, Philip Peasant would draw for lot number 6. Robert Melvin and Philip Peasant had a very close friendship. Philip would meet one of the Indians responsible for his captivity in Chester and exacted a measure of revenge by killing the man with a pistol. Robert Melvin then assisted Philip by sending him to Concord to stay with his family. Peasant gave Melvin his Oak Island lot number 6 for being such a good friend. DeMille's version is a departure from the popular Three Boys version, but elements of DeMille's story was being told to a group of investors from Yarmouth. In February 1863, the Yarmouth Herald published a detailed history of the treasure hunt, probably the most detailed information to date, wrote by one of the investors. Mr. Paul Pry told the discoverer of the pit lived there on the island alone and with his family for a period of 3 years before discovering the pit. Robert and Nathaniel Melvin are the only lot owners that meet the criteria established by the Yarmouth story and by DeMille's story. Why is Melvin's discovery of the money pit omitted from the Three Boys version? Why did Melvin want land in Nova Scotia when he had vast holdings in New England? Was his service at Louisbourg related to treasure on Oak Island? Who were the French that told Melvin of the money pit? Melvin's friends, Seckham, Houghton, and Prescott, were charged with sedition during the war. What part did Melvin play? Was he involved with a smuggling operation on Oak Island? What was Melvin hiding?